What is going on, guys? Matt Downs with Daily Grind Fantasy Sports to help give you the edge for this 5-game NBA slate. Cannot wait to break it down. If you guys are brand new to this channel, we provide both free and paid content for all daily fantasy sports across all sports. If you could please show your support by hitting that subscribe button, notification bell, and of course smashing that like button for all of our future NBA content. If you would like to know more about becoming a better DFS player and taking down that big GPP, head over to www.patreon.com/DGFantasy for more information. If you guys want to be entered into our $25 giveaway, please like, subscribe, and also comment your favorite cash play for this NBA slate. On Patreon, we give advanced cheat sheets for all DFS sports on DraftKings. These cheat sheets include updated projections, ownership, and our overall favorite plays from slate to slate. We take it a step further by teaching you how to play fantasy sports like a shark, by showing you where the best leverage spots are to put you in the best spots to take down tourneys. Also included is our private Discord chat where you get to talk over the slate with everyone, including our coaches, to help build your lineups. Now let's go ahead and dive right into this NBA 5-game slate. But as you guys know, we always have to cover the Patreon. And on the screen, we actually have a screenshot from TJ last night, creeping over the cash line. Yet another successful night for him. Withdrawing money left and right. He's just bragging about it at this point. We have some more lineup success here from our NBA coach, Elite, always killing it in the Discord. Again, $20 a month. You guys can talk to him and TJ and myself all day, every day about every single sport, including NBA. Some more success here, $32 in the 70. We had a double up cashing all the way around. Almost a takedown in every one of his contests here. Won $208 on the day. And then also another small GPP winner here, $275 won on the night. Let's switch over to this main slate. We are only covering the main slate, not the two early games. We have one starting at 1 and 4. So we're just focusing on the 7 o'clock games. FYI, anybody who's playing today, it does not start at 6 like a regular NBA slate on Sunday. It starts at 7. Starting with the very first game, we have the Cleveland Cavs versus your Boston Celtics, TJ, with Tatum still out. Same thing with Pritchard. So that does shake up the picture there in Boston. We will cover that in a little bit. Nothing with Orlando and Charlotte. Atlanta and Milwaukee have an extremely large game total here. A 231 over under, so that's definitely something we have to pay attention to because both Hunter and Trae Young are questionable right now, so definitely will impact that. And then we have my Spurs versus the Washington Wizards. They are favored for once in their lives here. Playing the Washington Wizards, they are 3-8, coming off of what was it, a 1 week?
About two weeks.
2 weeks? Yeah, two weeks for the very first game here. Russell Westbrook technically is questionable. We do expect he will play since it's been 2 weeks. San Antonio.
Fine, Russ.
What's that?
I said your quad is fine, Russ. Just play.
Yeah, just play. DeJounte Murray's questionable for the Spurs. If he is held out, it will be Spurs chalk night. I apologize in advance. And then last but not least, the New York Knicks here. Reggie Bullock is officially out. Austin Rivers is questionable. And then with Portland, we have the normal injuries here with McCollum and Nurkic being out. Let's start here on the Fantasy Cruncher slate with Cleveland and Boston first. TJ, do you have any interest whatsoever? Sorry, are you dying? What's good? Are you good?
I'm good. Yeah,
okay.
I've been back. I'm good.
You're good. Okay. Do you have any interest in the Cleveland side at all?
No.
Okay. Do you want to move on?
Oh. Yeah, if anything, I'd probably say Sexton at 7,100, but Garland's back.
Yep.
So yeah, no, I don't have any interest there.
Garland
was on a minute restriction too, so I'm assuming he'll get his minutes bumped tonight. So
okay, yeah. So that all the price tags are just way too high for me.
Yep.
With the Celtics, like I said, we have 2 injuries. Tatum and Pritchard that really shake up the picture, TJ. We have Kemba Walker starting to get a minute increase. He's now projected at 31 minutes, 6.6 point per dollar value on their sheet. And Jaylen Brown also being the stud on the team, taking up all the usage, $8,600. Did get the slight price increase, still undervalued according to our sheet, 35 minutes. Do you have interest here in cash for your Boston Celtics?
In cash, yeah. So Matt, when we were just talking about Cleveland, I don't have any cash interest. In terms of tournaments, I will have a little bit of interest there. But in terms of cash for the Celtics, yes, Jaylen Brown at 8,600 is probably going to be a lock for me in cash. He gets a 3.7% usage bump with Pritchard and Tatum off the floor, 1.5 fantasy point per minute, and a 34.7% usage rate. I have him pegged for 52.9 DraftKings points right now. Really like JB and the aggressiveness that we've seen, especially last game against Philly. trying to come back when they were just terrible. Brought it back and then lost again. Kemba is also somebody that I'm looking at, Matt. He played 28.5 minutes against Philly last game, 36 DraftKings points. He's put up 13 shots in his first 3 games. If he's going to play 28 minutes again at 6,300, I do think he is cheap. In his first 3 games this year, he's averaging 1.35 fantasy points per minute. A little bit of a small sample size. Obviously, he's only played in 3 games, but I do like him in terms of cash. I probably won't go there, but again, if he's going to play 28 minutes, I really like him as a tournament play. I honestly could land there in cash, Matt. I know you yelled at me for that earlier. But yeah, I think for me, Jaylen Brown is probably just going to be a lock. Teague, I also don't hate at 4,400. He gets a 4.4% usage bump with Pritchard and Tatum off the floor, 0.94 fantasy point per minute, and the 3rd highest usage rate on the team behind only JP and Kemba. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm thinking right now, Matt. Jaylen Brown block for me for cash. I do like Kemba, man, and then I think Teague's in play at 4,400.
I think if we get any news on Kemba Walker's minutes being increased to starter minutes, I think he could be definitely cash viable at that point.
Yeah,
the only thing I have to say about the slate is we have 2 standout games in terms of over unders, and this game's just so much lower than that. I'm not saying it could compete with them, but if I'm taking any exposure, I'm going to be taking only one guy, and that's going to be Jaylen Brown playing starter minutes at 35 minutes. All right, let's move on to Charlotte and Orlando. Probably the least intriguing, game of them all. Really nothing that stands out here. Devontae Graham, $6,400. Bismack at $4,300 with Cody Zeller back. Do you have any interest whatsoever in this team?
No, unless Zeller were to be playing, 20 minutes, I'd have interest there at 3,300. Just tournament plays for me. Graham's been playing really well as a late 6,400. I wouldn't hate him as a tournament play, but no cash interest for me here from Charlotte.
I'm going to be avoiding these guys. Going to be completely honest and transparent. Let's move on to Orlando. Gordon Hayward. You just wanted to get that out there real quick.
Gordon Hayward, yeah.
Okay. All right. That's no analysis, just the name.
Gordon Hayward.
Orlando here. A majority of these injuries are back. So do you have any interest here with all the injuries being back?
I mean, Vooch against the Charlotte Bigs, I have interest in him at 9,100. I don't think I'd get there in cash, but I think he's going to be a good tournament play. If he's carrying some ownership, I don't think I'd mind rostering him if I do land there. Fournier, Matt, actually popping on the sheet a little bit. Since he's come back, he's played pretty well in his first 2 games against Minnesota and Indiana. So at 5,800, he pops on the sheet a little bit here. 1.07 fantasy point per minute with Michael Carter-Williams off the floor. 24% usage rate, 2nd highest on the team behind only Vooch. I have him pegged for 32 DraftKings points. So I don't hate Fournier, more of a tournament play for me. If I'm going to go anywhere in cash in this game, it would probably be Vooch. But with that being said, I think there's better value.
I do too. I think as we get to these next 2 games, there's so much more value potential.
For sure.
And that being said, TJ, we don't know what's going to happen with this Washington picture, guys. So this is a pending moment for everybody watching. Stay tuned and also tune into the live stream if you want to hear our final takes on the Washington Wizards, because there's so much going on. A bunch of injury tags all over the place. I guess, TJ, what's your take here if Russell Westbrook is playing, which we expect him to?
So if Russ is playing, I mean, they only have 10 guys eligible right now, and that is with Westbrook and NATO being both questionable. They signed Alex Len and Jordan Bell. If Westbrook and NATO both sit, that would still give them 8 able bodies, so they would be able to play tonight against the Spurs regardless if those 2 guys sit. But, I mean, Russ has been out with a quad injury. They haven't played in 13 days. I expect them to play. NATO is more toward the available side anyway, so if they're all in, Matt, there is some good cheap value here, like Robin Lopez at 4,600. I don't hate that. The sample size that we have is so small, unfortunately, so it is pretty tough to kind of gauge. So you kind of got to go off intuition here. Like Jerome Robinson and Garrison Matthews are both very cheap at 3,500 and 3,400 respectively. Both currently pegged to play around 24 minutes, so I don't hate either of those cheap guys.
26 for Robinson, so...
Say it again?
26 for Robinson, actually, for me.
Okay, yeah, so that's even better. I mean, I wouldn't mind either of those 2 guys as a last piece. I mean, Garrison Matthews so far with everybody on the floor is a 1.07 fantasy point per minute. So I do like him as a cheap last piece. But again, we have to wait and see what's going on. I want to see a starting lineup first, Matt. They're projected the starting lineup to be Russ, Beal, Jerome Robinson, Bonga, and Robin Lopez. So yeah, I'll definitely have some interest here in Washington. Only 6-point road dogs, excuse me. So if they can stay competitive, some of those cheap guys could really smash value.
It's really funny to look at these price tags, TJ. We have $10,000 for Beal and Westbrook, and then everybody else is
everybody
just
else.
$4,700 and
Sell
left.
for 5K. It's like, okay.
Yeah, and so you really are picking from a stud and dud lineup here from the Washington Wizards. If Westbrook is held out, then yeah, it's going to be chalk night all day long for the Washington Wizards, including Beal, against the Spurs, a very bad defensive team. Both of these guys, in terms of pace, it's going to be a pace-up spot for both these teams. So definitely like the Washington Wizards to target, assuming that Russell Westbrook is not playing, and even if he is playing, I would be targeting some of those studs. Now looking over at the Spurs right now have a questionable tag on DeJounte Murray, $7,000. If he is held out, that definitely makes me have a lot of interest here in the San Antonio Spurs. Who are you targeting on this roster, TJ?
Yeah, so if Murray sits, he exited the game Friday night, sprained his ankle against Dallas, only played. That happened in like the first 2 minutes. So he was out the rest of the game. So if he does sit, Matt, yeah, I'm going to be locking in DeRozan with DeJounte Murray, Derek White, and Drew Eubanks off the floor. DeRozan, gets a 4.4% usage bump. He's a 1.29 fantasy point per minute and the highest usage rate on the team at 29.2, Matt. If DeJounte is out, I would have him pegged for 47.2 DraftKings points. So I would absolutely love DeRozan in cash. 47.1 DraftKings.
Okay, never mind. Good.
What you thought I said? 67?
I thought you said 70. I heard the 7.
He could go for 70. No, so I would like DeMar if DeJounte is out. I think he would be a very cash viable play. I actually don't hate him even if
I was about to say I think he's going to be high on regardless, to be honest.
Yeah. Matt, another guy, LaMarcus Aldridge, who 5,500 against Dallas. He kind of showed up a little bit.
I had him as the last piece. Just FYI,
Okay.
It's funny.
Yeah. Okay.
I promise you.
Okay, doubt it. No, I know you did. Did I have some influence in that?
Maybe a little bit. Yeah, he was literally my last piece. So
yeah. So with if Murray is out, with Murray, Derek White, and Eubanks off the floor, Aldridge gets a 3.4% usage bump, Matt, a 1.14 fantasy point per minute, and a 28% usage rate, which is second highest just behind DeRozan. So I would have a lot of interest in DeMar and Aldridge if Murray is out. If Murray is still in, I will have interest in DeMar regardless. And then, I mean, we got to look at some of these cheaper guys. I have Mills pegged at 25 minutes. I think he would get a couple more minutes there if Murray's out. Lonnie Walker would probably play 30-plus minutes. I think Vusel, we're pronouncing that right, I believe. Pegged at 18, I think he would see more minutes as well. So if Murray's out, need to see where those minutes get dispersed to. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of interest here if he does sit.
And I really do think he's going to sit, TJ. Just knowing how Pop operates here, he's definitely not going to throw DeJounte Murray back in the mix, especially against the Washington Wizards. Let's go down to Atlanta and Milwaukee. These guys are both pending injury news right now. Oh, sorry, just Atlanta is. Trae Young and Hunter are questionable. That will definitely shake up things here for the Atlanta picture, TJ. What are your thoughts here for Atlanta, especially if Trae Young sits?
I think Trae Young's going to play. Back spasms. He should be good to go against the Bucks. I doubt he sits in this matchup. If he's in, Matt, I really don't hate him at 9,400, but probably going to be more of a tournament play. I don't know where the ownership is going to come in on Trae Young. I don't know if you have an early number for Fantasy Cruncher right now.
Not yet.
Okay, yeah, I figured it was a little too early. But yeah, 9,400, I think that is pretty cheap. Tough matchup against the Bucks. Going to need him to score a lot. Capella is a guy that we've been attacking as of late, and we've seen his price tag just continue to increase. With just Bogdanović off the floor, because everybody else is good to go, being Gallinari, Rondo, Reddish, and then obviously if Hunter's out, that will give Capella a little bit more of a tick. But he gets a 1.5% usage bump. He's a 1.41 fantasy point per minute, Matt, which is the highest on the Hawks. Barely outperforming Trae Young at a 1.39 fantasy point per minute. So I would have Capella pegged for 48.7 DraftKings points. We've seen how much of an animal he's been over the last week and a half. He's been absolutely incredible. So I don't hate landing on Capella and cash, honestly, at 8,500. I still think he's undervalued. But besides that, I wouldn't mind DeAndre Hunter at 5,800. But in terms of cash, I think I'm just looking at Capella or potentially Trae Young. That's if Trae Young and Hunter are in. If one of them are out, that's going to shake things up for sure.
Look for Trae Young or Clint Capella to have a ceiling game, assuming it stays close with the Bucks. There's always that question. The Bucks just can blow out anybody. I don't care who it is at this point, other than maybe the Lakers or Clippers. But switching over to Milwaukee here, we have a lot of value because Giannis is 10.4K, and you know that I love attacking Giannis when he's that low of a price tag, especially in the pace-up game here versus Atlanta. Do you consider him or any one of these guys cash viable? Chris Middleton, $7,800 as well.
Yeah. I think you can go to Giannis if you want to. It's just really a cheap price tag, honestly. You know, he kind of looked pretty bad against the Lakers, honestly. I think he was trying to do too much. Yeah. I think he was trying to do too much.
He always does that. Tries to do too much against LeBron.
Didn't really let the game kind of come to him. You could tell he was trying to stick it to LeBron and AD. And I don't think he was very efficient on. I mean, he was 11 of 17 shooting, but a lot of offensive fouls. Got into foul trouble a little bit there too, but played through it. But with that being said, Matt, I do like him at 10-4. I think it's a good matchup. I don't think John Collins can stick with him, so I would assume they would put Collins on him. So I do like Giannis here at 10-4. If you do land there in cash, I don't hate it as long as this game can stay competitive. Again, the Bucks are 9-point favorites at home. Elsewhere, I mean, I loved Drew Holiday last game against the Lakers at 6,600. He's up to 7,300 now. I wouldn't hate him as a last piece, but I probably won't go there. I think the only interest that I would have would probably be Giannis. Chris Middleton, 7,800, like you talked about. He is fairly cheap, but I think I'd rather go to Giannis.
Yeah. Middleton's just always so consistent. That's what I like about him and his price tag. Right. If you land on him in the pace-up spot and this game does stay close, I do think Middleton or Giannis will obviously have a ceiling game. So take a stab at one of the two superstars here for sure, at least in GPPs. Last but not least, we have the Knicks versus Portland. On the Knicks side of things, not too much to be said here other than Bullock. His minutes will go elsewhere to some of these guards. Do you have any interest whatsoever here in the Knicks?
I mean,
Alec Burks, huh?
Alec Burks looks good. 4,800. Yep. Price tag came down. He's 5,300 in his first game back against Golden State. So I don't hate him as a last piece, Matt. With Bullock off the floor, he gets a 1.1% usage rate. Now, Bullock is just doubtful. He's not out technically, but it looks like he's going to sit. But he gets a 1.1% usage bump. He's a 1.04 fantasy point per minute and a 24% usage rate. 5.7 on our sheet. I'd have him pegged for 27.35 DraftKings points. So we'll round up, call it 27.4. We'll be nice to Alec Burks today. So I do like him at 4,800. I think he is very cheap. This over under, I'm not really too enthused about.
It is going up for what it's worth.
13.
214 now.
Okay. It's tough to ignore Julius Randle just because the minutes that he accrues night in and night out. He always plays 35 plus minutes if the game is competitive. So a good matchup against the Portland Bigs with Nurk being out. He'll be able to go down low against guys like Canner. If Covington matches him, Covington's very good defensively, but if he can get some one-on-ones with Canner, I do like Julius Randle. Mitchell Robinson, if he's going to be banging down low with Canner, like I really like him as a tournament play at 5,800. But more tournament plays here. If you're landing on Alec Burks as of right now, I don't hate it. And it is tough to ignore Julius Randle.
Yeah, I think Alec Burks, the more I look at him, the more obvious he is, playing projected 29 minutes and everything that you just said, especially with Bullock being out, could make for a very interesting cash value piece. We're going to need some cash value, at least on this slate, for sure. Looking last but not least at Portland, we know that McCollum and Nurkic are both out, so Damian Lillard has been getting the benefit there in terms of usage, but right now he's at 10K, pace down spot. Do you have any interest in anybody in this team? I know you want to talk about Derrick Jones, correct?
Unfortunately, I think Dame's going to actually carry some high ownership, Matt, at 10K with CJ and Nurk off the floor. He gets a 1.5% usage bump. Man, I couldn't think of that. 1.35 fantasy point per minute, which is a little bit lower than I thought. 32% usage rate, which is great.
Last year.
Yeah. Again, the over-under is not something we're enthused about, but if this game can stay competitive, I see no reason that Dame can't pay off that 10K price tag and go for 50 plus DraftKings points. So I do like him. Again, I think he is going to carry some ownership. If I'm going elsewhere, it's probably going to be these cheap guys. I don't hate Melo at 4,800 going up against his former team, Matt, if you're into narratives, going up against the Knicks.
There's that.
Yep.
They're
I
playing
do
at
like
New York,
Derrick
too. So.
Yes, I do like Derrick. No, they're at home. Portland's at home.
Yep, you're right. Sorry.
Yes. No, you're good. So Derrick Jones is very cheap at 3,900. They haven't pegged for 30 minutes, Matt. Not somebody I'm in love with, but A little bit of a usage bump with Nurk and CJ off the floor, 0.8 fantasy points per minute, a very low usage rate at 12.3. He'll get you some steals and some dunks. So I think he can fill the stat sheet and get you that, 20 DraftKings points is what you're essentially looking for. I haven't pegged for 24. And then Rodney Hood, if he does start again, Matt, he looked really good last game when he started against your Spurs. Shot 9 of 14. He had 28 DraftKings points. So if he starts again, I do like him. 3.7% usage bump with Nurk and CJ off the floor. 0.81 fantasy point per minute. So I think both those guys are viable last pieces in cash if you're landing there.
Yeah.
Again, we have to wait at what's going on in Washington, and DeJounte Murray being out, there could probably be some chalk that ends up in San Antonio.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's yet to be seen, but I do think there's some cheap value there in Portland.
We are paying a lot of attention to that Washington-San Antonio game, and we should get that information before the slate does lock. At least we hope so. Stay tuned for that. Tune into the live stream, and also if you guys did enjoy this breakdown, please do hit that subscription button, notification bell, and of course smash that like button for all of our future NBA content. With all that being said, have a great rest of your day, and let's cash.
See you later, guys.